They never wrote her name down. History rarely does for women like her. She lived where the fire lived, not the kind that burns cities down, but the kind that keeps them alive, the kind that gives them warmth and a future. Imagine a time long before our modern world, before roads had names, before men argued over imaginary lines they called borders. In that time, there was a woman. She would wake before the sun, her first thought not for herself, but for the fire. She had to make sure it was still breathing, because if that fire went out, everything stopped. The children in the village, they didn't understand this. To them, warmth was just a given, as automatic as daylight, as certain as the promise of tomorrow. But she knew the truth. Fire is a force of nature. It doesn't care about our hopes or our dreams. It demands respect. It demands attention. And so, she fed it, quietly. There was no drama in her actions, no grand gestures seeking applause. Her offerings were simple: wood, her own breath, and an ocean of patience. While others, the men mostly, hunted for glory on distant fields, she guarded the very essence of survival. When the hunters left for days, sometimes never to return, the hearth remained. When the winters grew so cruel they felt personal, the hearth remained. When grief, that uninvited guest, entered a home without knocking, the hearth remained. It was the one constant in a world of uncertainty. She learned a profound lesson early in her life. True strength isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself with trumpets and declarations. It simply endures. You could see the story of her life written on her body. Her hands were cracked from the cold and the work. Her back, once straight and strong, was now bent from years of stooping over the flames. Her countless sacrifices, her endless labor, all of it just blended into the background of daily life until it became completely invisible. And isn't that how society likes its foundations? Unnoticed. We build our magnificent structures on them, but we rarely, if ever, look down to see what's holding us up. But make no mistake, everything, and I mean everything, depended on her. The epic stories of heroes and gods were told around the fire, but never a story about the woman who kept it alive. The laws that would govern the community were debated in the warmth she so tirelessly created. The very future was planned by people who never once stopped to ask how the room stayed so comfortably warm. They just took it for granted. And still, she didn't leave. She didn't abandon her post. Why? Because the hearth was so much more than just a fire. It was a vessel for memory. It was the thread of continuity that connected the past to the present. It was the quiet, unspoken promise that tomorrow had a chance to begin. Centuries tumbled by. The world changed, and the fire changed with it. The simple stone hearth became a cast iron stove, then a gas furnace. The flickering flames of wood and coal were replaced by the invisible power of electricity. Homes grew taller, louder, faster. The pace of life quickened to a blur. But the hearth woman, she never disappeared. She just changed her form. She became the nurse on the night shift, a quiet guardian angel in the sterile halls of a hospital, tending to the vulnerable while the city sleeps. She became the mother, holding her family together with invisible threads of love and sheer willpower, absorbing the chaos so her children can feel a sense of stability. She became the friend who always listens, the colleague who stays late to help, the woman who holds things together without ever being asked, without ever expecting a thank you. Modern life, for all its technological marvels, still runs on her labor. An emotional, invisible, and almost always unpaid labor. We live in a society that praises ambition. We worship disruption and innovation. We celebrate the ones who build new things, but we forget that nothing, absolutely nothing, can survive without maintenance. Empires don't just fall because of a single, great battle. They crumble from the inside out when the hearth is neglected, when the quiet work of holding things together stops. Families don't just collapse overnight. They break apart slowly, piece by piece, when the quiet work stops. The world doesn't break from grand, cinematic explosions. It breaks from the slow, creeping poison of neglect. And somewhere, right now, as you're watching this, a woman is keeping a fire alive that no one else notices. She's not doing it because she is weak or because she has no other choice. She is doing it because she is essential. She is the foundation, the hearth. Woman was never meant to be seen. Her purpose, her design, was to make everything else possible for everyone else. And so maybe, the most radical, the most revolutionary thing we can do right now is to finally turn our gaze away from the spectacle and look at the fire. Look at the warmth in our lives, the stability we take for granted, And then, we must ask the most important question: who has been feeding it all this time? Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it. Let's make the invisible visible. Subscribe for more stories that look at the world a little differently.